Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl of my desire, and we are back again to give you another spoiler review of Harlem. This is episodes 5 and 6, which is dropping during Love Week.
Yes.
Yuck. Anyway, moving on. Um So here we are, episode 5, and the girls have started to really show us what's happening this season. I think it's done a really good job so far. Um, and I guess we'll start with Quinn and Angie because this is kind of how the scene opens up. We have
Yes.
Quinn talking to Angie and Angie talking to Quinn about this guy that she just met and this and the third, yada yada yada. And Quinn is like, I just need one time for it not to be about you. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been in her shoes, like I've been in Quinn's shoes where like you just need a moment. Like you just need your friends to be there for you for a second. And they're so selfish and short-sighted in the moment that they can't see that you're in need and that you are um basically like you're in need of something. You're in need of compassion, of love, of care, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so Quinn spazzes and Angie says, remember that the next time, I don't remember what she said, but something along the lines of like, remember that the next time that you want me to kind of like do the same for you or whatever. Um,
Exactly.
this is a normal friendship, right? This is pretty average of not reading the room. And again, like I said before in my previous reviews, that they've kind of been doing a little bit of that all over the place. Um,
But let me say this. I don't think it's
yeah,
even about reading the room because Quinn doesn't look down. She doesn't look depressed. She just looks like
this is true.
she just wants to have a good time with what
Sure.
she wants to do. So I think they're both having a selfish moment right now because Quinn is all, this is my first pride as a
Yeah,
bisexual,
she's
pansexual woman, and
wherever
I
she
want to do
is.
this and I want to do that. Right. You know, the pans, the bands, the bis, the tries, whatever. You like it, I love it. But is they both, I think they both parallel on selfishness in this part because Quinn is so focused on her having a good time at Pride versus everybody having a good time at Pride, just like Angie's focused on this man contacting her that she just met, where this is the norm for Angie every time somebody comes across her mind or gets her attention that
Mhm.
she gets infatuated with. So
Right.
I think they both parallel with each other. I think they're both guilty of the same sin, pretty
Oh,
much.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. They definitely aren't paying it. Not, I won't say they're not paying attention. They dismiss it sometimes, which we all do because
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to speak
Exactly.
up, right? So I totally get it. So Angie storms out. Quinn shows up to brunch, right? With Ty.
Mm-hmm.
Camille gets called by Dr. Pruitt. And she leaves, so that leaves Quinn and Ty. So Quinn is like, listen, I really want to go to Pride, and Ty's like, that shit is whack, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
I'm not part of the community, so I'm not aware, and nor was I aware until this episode, quite frankly, that
Oh,
one
yeah.
was better than the other. You know what I mean? I'm learning some shit here. I'm learning,
It definitely is a lituation between the
yeah.
two. And
So
all I can say is if you have been to DC, Memorial Day weekend and the second weekend in June, there is a total difference. And if you get it, you get it. If you know, you know.
well, I don't know, and I wish somebody would take me. So
I'll be in I actually will be in Harlem Memorial Day weekend, so I can't take you, unfortunately.
it's raggedy. Anyway, so 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 Ty Quinn gets vulnerable and she has that moment with Ty and she's like, listen, I really need this. Like, I just need this. Like, I'm not gonna tell you about what right now, but just know that I need this. And so I like that Ty's like, okay, if this is what you need, I got you. They
Mhm.
venture out into Pride and and you hate her outfit.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
I'm not gonna say that I hated it, but I feel like it would have looked really bomb with some like with a cute like tank top and
No.
some cute pants. Like I'm talking about the headpiece. The headpiece is it for me. The
Okay, that's
cape,
what I was about to say. It's different elements that would have
right?
been fine on their
She
own.
could have wore the jumper because it was a jumper, right? She could have wore the jumper
No,
by
was it a
itself.
jumper?
Yeah, it's a jumper. It's a jumper, then a cape, and then a headpiece. So she
Oh,
could have
okay,
wore
I thought she had
all
on a short
three.
and okay.
She could have wore all three separately, but quite frankly, the cape is a no-go for me. The face piece and the jumper, cool. Yeah, but together it's giving, girl, you just got here and came out the closet and you want everybody to know it.
And that's exactly why I hated it so much, is because it's like, oh, I get it. You're gay, you're happy, you're finding yourself. Awesome, congratulations. But just because you have found this new sense of self, that does not mean that you need to plaster it on yourself and wear it as a walking billboard. One thing that I can't stress enough, one person's walk of life in this community is different from someone else's, but it does not need to be thrown into your face if you're not of the community, and it's such an aggressive way. And I just think that's the reason. That's one thing that turned me off so much about it. I for one enjoyed the little jacket cape little moment that she had. That headpiece though, that headpiece is just like, and it's no shade, but it just gave me like Carnival in Brazil. Like that's what you would wear. Think about it. Think about it. Right. You're the Caribbean. You're the Caribbean one.
I was thinking about it for a second. I was like,
that's what he gave me. It didn't give me, and I understand people wear whatever they want to wear at Pride. I'm not for the gay Pride parades like Ty. It's a different vibe between gay Pride and Black gay Pride. And like I said, if you know, you know, and that's every city that celebrates gay Pride.
And we see that a little bit in this episode because they made it I think they did a good job at making it very clear that there were a lot more white people than there were Black people.
Absolutely.
The audacity, the caucasity per usual of this white man trying to basically grow ties, and so I think that it's just, it speaks volumes to what is still currently happening because we are up to date, you know what I mean? So, but of course, we run into Quinn's mom, who is doing mom's hugs from mom.
Mom's free mom hugs.
Right. Like, man.
Which you didn't know that was a thing either.
No. I mean, I'm not somebody's mom yet, but when I am, I'm finna be out there saying, bring it in, maybe. But I think that it's interesting. Okay, so here we have, after having this long conversation, or short but intense conversation with her mom about her not sharing, about her not being there, being understanding, she comes over to her mom. She's like, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, Isabella invited me. Like, where's she at? You know what I'm saying? For what it's worth, I told her that she made a big mistake with you. And then Quinn asked for a hug, and her mom's like, I'll hug you next weekend. Ma'am,
I get the disrespect, because it bothered me too. Because like, you're willing to hug strangers, but you won't even hug your own child, and I'm right here needing a hug too. And I guess because of the fact of where it comes from, that free mom hug is a real thing at Pride. And because of so many gays that get turned away from their family, that's why the moms come out there to do it. So it's kind of like, you always get one from me, but at the same time, like, damn, that's fucked up, because she actually need that right now.
She really do. She really do. So of course, and mind you, Quinn has been drinking, and so has her mama, because her mom says that it looks like Skittles threw up and something and whatnot.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a lot happening, but
lit like a 20-foot Christmas tree.
Yeah. So of course, Ty is kind of trying to ask the serious question about like what's going on, and Quinn is like, don't we have your party to go to? And so they end up going to Ty's party. Now, throughout this whole conversation, because the Ty and the Quinn story is so mixed in, we're just gonna dive into that as well. Ty has been talking about giving up Q, giving up the app, shutting the app down, because Brandon can't take half of nothing, essentially, right? And so he's bent on doing this, but they get to the party. She says she's about to make the announcement. She's walking up to the stage, and somebody interrupts her, and she's like, I'm sorry, I have to go. And then the partner of the young lady grabs the microphone, and she says, if my person says they want to say thank you, let them. And so she was like, go ahead, say thank you. So they give her the spill about, if it wasn't for your app, I wouldn't have met this person. I wouldn't be here with essentially like the love of my life right here in this moment. And Ty decides not to shut down Q. And then you see all these pop-ups of the people who are in the room, who have been together 7 months, a year and a half, married for
2
6
years,
months, whatever. And I think that's a really beautiful thing because you see the diversity in among the people, not just color wise, but age wise.
Yeah.
Things of that
Sex.
nature. Yeah, so I thought it was really cool to see that. But like again, as a person who's not in the community, like what was your like initial thoughts about her shutting it down, and then the whole scene towards that afterwards?
I mean, I definitely understood where she was coming from as far as wanting to shut it down, because just like you did not put in, so why should you take out? So I got her. I felt her on that. But that moment of seeing the work that you put in and the result of it, it was very, like you said, it was very beautiful, because it's like there's nothing like seeing something you put hard work into flourishing and being a success. And it just it's it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful moment. I actually wish that there was a real life Q. I don't know that there is a real Q, because that is something that, that could work for us in the community who are people of color, where we're not on these same sites as, the majority, and we're not fetishized. And I think that was the purpose of her app. Right. So it's a place where they can be seen and connect. And I mean, like I said, I wish that there was one. I don't know if there is. If there is, somebody let me know in the comments below, because your boy is single and I'm starting to get ready to mingle. But I'm just saying, it's about to get hot. I'm about to be back in that gym. Seriously, thick is the word of the summer. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm not very thick, so I'm just gonna go with the.
You're thick where it matters, ma'am. Do not sell yourself short. Y'all can't see this, but baby girl is she built.
I'm slim thick, But I mean, I do think that when it comes to dating and really being dedicated, right? Because I'm talking about fully making the choice to say, like, I am open to love. However, I genuinely want a Black kind of love. And so I think that when you are talking about dating for people of color, it is a different story out here for us, for sure. It really
is.
And I think that, apps like that, if they exist in real life, would absolutely help, close the gap on what marriages in the Black community or brown community for that matter. So we have this storyline happening in the midst of Ty getting a win. Quinn takes a L because here comes Vogue on the elevator, and she's trying to escape them, and she's like, what? Why they here? And she's trying to get on the same elevator. First of all, ma'am, you've had way too much to drink. You're trying to get on an elevator they're currently getting off. Why not just wait for them to pass by, and then you can just exit stage left? But of course,
because you're trying not to be seen anyway.
So she's seen, and they're like, Quinn, and then they're like, no. She's like, no, and then they're like, well, it's not our fault your interview got canceled. She's like, cancel, and she goes all Solange in the elevator.
I was just about to say
that. So I'm just like, ma'am, this is too much. But she gets kicked out, and all these storylines really blend. So she gets kicked out, and we have her, fake TMZ person out there who's like, trying to record her. And then she sees these people coming around the corner, and she's like, oh, we running? And then Angie sees Quinn, and Angie's like, Quinn, so they have this whole like moment. We'll get to the running part in a second, but we have this moment with Quinn and Angie, and she's like, oh, I was looking for a charger, and I'm sorry about earlier today, and too. And then she gets the call that she's been waiting on, and it instantly kind of forgets about Quinn until she looks over, and Quinn is like, no, it's okay. Now, I have two feelings about this. Like, your friend just told you, like, she's sorry, but beforehand, when y'all had the argument, she said she just needed it to be about her. So in that moment, it should have been about her. But also Quinn shoving it to the side, being like, no, it's okay, puts people in a non-accountable, non-responsible kind of space.
Yeah.
To really assist you and support you the way that you need it, because you're not speaking up.
Absolutely. She puts them, it's almost like a drawer You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll pull it out when I'm going to deal with you and this problem I have with you. Then I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to pull this one out and I'll deal with you. But you can't have it both ways, especially when you just told one friend that you don't want to talk about what's going on with you, but then you are almost wanting to seem vulnerable. I mean, you are seeming vulnerable to another friend who, you know, who you've already noted has a history of making things just about themselves, and then, you know what I'm saying, to feel some type of way. It's like, it's that catch-22. It's like, you want to be there for her, but it's like, you already told me go do my thing, so let me go do my thing.
Right. So back to our run-a-thon, because it was funny as hell. So we have Angie at work, you know, on set as the postal girl, and she
not yet.
No.
So when Angie and Quinn, I was about to say Quinn, and when Angie and Quinn have their falling out, you know, she goes to Eric's house. Because she already has her bags packed, because she's going to come on, work with me, Brian. She's going to Pride, but she's going to house sit. She's going to house sit for him because he's going on a cruise, because he got picked up to do some cruise or whatever like that, and sing and perform and all of that. And she's coming over to house sit and watch his cat. Cat looks creepy as. I'm not a cat person. I'm allergic. No shades of those who are. Please don't come for me. Not that kind of cat. Anyway, so, you know, they hang out for a little bit, and while they're hanging out, she's talking about, you know, how she met the guy Michael, and, you know, they're having their moment walking throughout Pride and everything like that, and she's just waiting on the call. She notices her phone is going dead, and she leaves Eric and goes to go find a charger, and she's running. Now, this is the part that we both agreed, I think all of us, because even with Sherelle, we all agreed, as funny as it was so stereotypical and so like, why did it have to be her? When, you know, that old saying, when you see one black person run, when one black person sees another black person run, we all run. You know what I'm saying? And that is the situation that comes off looking like a whole 800-meter dash, you know, going on cross country.
It was funny though, because
it was funny.
The guy with the first of all, you dropped your plate, sir. For why? Like, he dropped his paper plate. The lady getting out the cab starts to run.
Yo, I was just about to say that. Like, she just got out the cab and she take off.
Is this not your destination, ma'am? I'm very confused here. Like, what is going on? But, you know, like you said, it was just so stereotypical, and of course, we kind of hate to see Angie being the one that fills this space. So, but yeah, so essentially, she really was just waiting for Mike to call, which is the new guy that she met at Quinn's mom's vow renewal party. And
he calls.
He does call, and she's very excited. You know, I love this for her, but I also love how Eric bigs her up, and he's like, "You're you." Like, he's crazy if he doesn't call, and I'm like, I'm so glad that I have friends like this. And just to show overall, like, friendship is just so huge.
It's so key. It's so key.
So we go back to Camille, right? To end out this episode, and she's called by Dr. Pruitt, like we said earlier when she was at brunch. Dr. Pruitt tells her to bring all her research, and we don't know what for. She gets there, and Dr. Pruitt tells her, like, you know, that TA that I hired is a scammer. Like, not only did she scam and plagiarize what my portion was in this research project, but then she stole my goddamn identity.
Oh, but now, 4 credit cards. 4. She on a trip. She on a trip somewhere. Cards. And I know they was platinum. I know they had to be platinum cards too.
Listen, because I know Dr. Pruitt credit is good. So, so basically, they have a bonding moment though, because Dr. Pruitt says, "Hey, listen, you got to do this and you got to get out because I got a dinner coming in." At first, I thought it was a date, like a dinner date situation.
Me too. I was like, "What was she dating?"
She answers the phone, and you know, she's like, "No." She's like, "Slow down. Do I need to come get you?" I thought it was really funny because there's some shit my mom would say, like, "So are you good?" Because like, you talking really fast right now. She's basically getting canceled on us. She's like, "You can make some time for your mother." And after she gets off the phone, Camille says, "Well, I didn't know you had a daughter." And she goes, "Well, I know. Well, you know." And Camille tries to make the comparison of her mom not being around to Dr. Pruitt's daughter canceling. She says it's not the same, and
Mhm.
whatever you're inclined to say, don't. And
Exactly.
right after that, she gets a phone call from the
The dean.
university, right?
Mhm.
And he's asking her to come in to, to prove and show all of what has gone on. And Camille says, hey, I'll go with you. I mean, I don't mind taking the heat because I'm leaving anyway, and whatever you are thinking about saying, don't. And she reaches her hand out for Dr. Pruitt, and at first Dr. Pruitt doesn't take it, but then she does, and they have this moment. I think it's really telling to Black co-workership in a sense, even though they're not co-workers, and Dr. Pruitt obviously still is on a different level than her. I still feel like you still are co-workers to a degree, helping one another out in this moment of need. And I think this is very interesting. I was glad to see that because the whole time I was like, man, Dr. Pruitt can't hate Camille the whole time.
Well, I mean, I think it's that situation where, because one, I would say the only correction I would say is they're not essentially co-workers. It's really she's her boss. So it's like
Right.
it's
Yeah,
sometimes what I have, and I'm pretty sure others can say this too. Working, being in the workplace, you come across you meet some of those bosses who aren't warm to you right away because sometimes there could be so much of you that reminds them of so much of them at a time in their life that they don't like any representation of that because they don't want to be reminded sometimes of their mistakes or things that happen to them. And I think that quintessentially is an issue that Dr. Pruitt has with Camille. She's so eager, she's so this, she's so that, she's so loud, she's so abrasive, she's so boisterous to the point it's so overwhelming for Dr. Pruitt to take on at one time because that's how she was when she met her. That's how she's always been every interaction she's had with Dr. Pruitt. So it's a lot to take on, especially with the type of personality that she's coming off having with being such a big personality. And that might be just too much that Dr. Pruitt can take on, which is why she's so standoffish. But in that same sense, where we see that bonding moment, because that's something that they both can relate on, is abandonment, because Dr. Pruitt essentially has been abandoned by her daughter. And then, Camille's mom has abandoned her in a sense because she never comes out. And for me, it was an aha moment because it was just like all that energy that Dr. Pruitt has been spewing towards Camille, she's getting it handed right back to her by her child. But it's never easy when it comes to a family. And I think that's the same. I think that's the thing that brought them two together to bond over, because they both know what it's like, because they're both dedicated to their work, but they also both, extremely family and friend oriented. And it's also funny because, earlier in this, we didn't speak on it, but earlier in this, we see before brunch, she gets approached by Jameson and about a grant, and she wants nothing to do with it because she's leaving Columbia anyway. So why would it benefit her to be a part of it? And then now she's coming back and helping Dr. Pruitt. And it's I don't know. It's like you almost see Dr. Pruitt's opinion of Camille changing for her.
Absolutely.
In that moment.
Yeah, we do. And of course, speaking of Camille and saying no to Jameson, she said no to Jameson earlier before she goes to Dr. Pruitt's. She leaves her phone and he's like texting her, and Ian sees them. And in this moment, I already knew it was about to pop off because there was a time and a date and a location, a place to meet. So yeah, okay. So rolling into episode 6, we have Jameson and Ian meeting at the bar that he sent Camille the information to via text
Drop
message.
that pen, homie.
So, they meet up and he essentially says like, hey, we need to talk. And this went kind of like how I thought it was, to be quite honestly, because I figured for the most part that they're grown. This is not worth having any sort of like beef per se, like physical
civility.
Yeah. So, they have a conversation and Ian is basically like, listen, you out of pocket, like texting her. And he's like, man, I'm texting her about a goddamn grant. So like, sit your hot ass down. And, and so Ian is like, well, listen,
it's very much that.
You know what I mean? Like, Ian is like, a grant. Like, what you mean? Looking all
she ain't say nothing about no grant.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So there goes the conversation about a grant, like for 25 grand. And, they both kind of come to the realization, like, this is stupid that she wouldn't take it. So they have a moment. They sit down, and it's
The
still Pride.
bartender gives him the drink.
Gives him the drink. He's like, happy Pride
Pride.
Day or whatever. And they both laugh. They take the drinks, and I think that was a nice moment. But in that, Ian says, "Listen, you can have her for work, but I'm her heart, and I have her heart. I have her for love." And so we go back home, and we see Ian, cooking and made a nice meal, and Camille gets back in, and he's like, they talk for a little while. She tells him what went on with her day, and he explains to her, like, yeah, me and Jameson had a conversation, and she's like, what? And he's like, well, you left your phone. I sent you a message. I realized when I picked it up that your phone, because my message came here, so you left your phone. I saw the other messages, which tells you off the rip. See, this is why you should have the messages just show up, but they don't actually show the content of the messages.
Baby, listen, my shit say text message Maya, text message Sherelle. You ain't getting no preview.
Listen, no, not a preview unless my eyes look at the screen. That's how that works, okay? But so of course Camille goes into this weird, like, how could you? First of all, Camille's dramatic. Like, she's been dramatic both times. When she talked to Jameson, she left her purse talking about I gotta go.
Gotta get
this like, girl, what you need your purse? So go back and get it. And so same thing here with Ian, where she's just like, you going through my phone, like, where's the trust? Da, 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 da. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, your phone was laying here. I picked it up because I realized you left it at home. When I texted you, I saw the text messages. I went to talk to Ian, to Jameson, and we decided, like, you should really take this, like, it would be a good opportunity for you to take this. Oh, so the man just decided what I could do. And he's like, no, we're just saying that it's a stupid reason for you to turn it down, which I think is valid. Like, I think exactly. That we talk about ego and pride in certain spaces about men, but we don't talk about that on the flip side.
Ooh, you better say a thing, Lord.
Listen, I might get chewed out a little bit for that, but the point is, like, your man is.
I got your back. I got your back.
The best for you, and I think that that's what matters the most. Is him saying, like, this is no reason to say no. You know what I mean?
This is what support looks like.
Right. This is what support looks like. And then, of course, unfortunately, Ian, Camille is like, well, I guess since you saw my phone, he's like, well, what else are you hiding? He think that she gonna tell him that she ran into Jameson earlier, and she's not talking about that. And she goes, well, I guess. He's like, what else are you hiding? She goes, well, I mean, the fertility thing, I didn't know how to tell you. And he was like, what are you talking about? And he does what Ian does for the most of the season, right? He finishes his drink and then he leaves. And
I'm not going to let you do that.
I'm just saying. All right. I'm just saying. I'm going to go back and count how many times he left throughout the season. Nonetheless.
Well, but there's a reason, too, that I think, and a lot of women don't. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, because he's hurt. As a man who wants to be a father, as a man who knew that or thought that they were in a better space that would have conversations about this, and that he wanted to support her, he is very genuinely hurt. And I get it completely, of course. What are you thinking about her reactions to, like, the phone situation, all of that whole scene? Like,
as someone who has had an ex go through their phone, I will say that I understood her objectivity about it. Like, why are you doing this? However, I also am one that don't say, wait until your question before you start, offering up answers. Hello? Because she started running that mouth before the things that she was even saying were even questions or accusations even being made. Because, you dig your own grave that way. It's like somebody gives you enough rope and you can either pull yourself out, or you can pull yourself out the hole, or you can hang yourself. And she always hangs herself and puts her foot in her mouth. And it's just like, girl, but let me just say she keeps stepping in it. And I'm gonna leave it at that. She keeps stepping in it, but who you got next?
No, we gotta stay with her for a little bit, because moving on, we go to her mom's, because now that they've had the hack at school, all of them have to be re-verified, social security card, birth certificate. So she goes back to her mom's house. She's thinking that she might be able to sneak in, sneak out without her mom noticing, but of course, lo and behold, there's a little bit of confrontation, and her mom says, "Why are you always talking about the dead parent?" in reference to her dad. And then shows her a picture that she only has a copy of, right? And she's like, I'm not always thinking about that, but I mean, I was trying to focus on you because you're still here, but you just don't, you don't
Let
show
me
up,
in.
you don't come out. So we have that, and I think that was a very interesting conversation. And I think that as we get older, we're in that space where we're in our 30s, having these kind of conversations with our parents is really like, yeah, like it's one of those freeing kind of moments where you're like, man, I'm really an adult. I can really kind of sort of tell you about yourself. You know what I mean? I can't go too
From a
far.
distance, though. From a distance, like, watch out.
From a distance. The most I could be like,
who? What?
Your shit stinks too. And I'm gonna still back up after I say that, just in case.
Like, you doing too much.
My mama got hands.
My mother plays softball and has great aim. That's all I'm going to say.
We're gonna leave it at that. So moving on.
Hold on, but before we leave it, I do want to mention one thing about Camille's mom. This also shows us how grief shows up for everybody else. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Some people are able to deal with grief one way, and some people can't. You see, she got all the seasons going on in her house because I think those are attached to the Halloween, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving. It's like, who, the Easter bunny, who you leaving out? But I think,
wasn't it a candy corn turkey or some shit?
I can't remember. It's something sitting in the window. But I think the reason that those things are there is because those hold on to memories of her husband that is deceased. And like I said, it shows you how grief shows up in other people, because Camille being the child, she was able to get over it because she's young. But that being her mom's, her dad, her mom's husband, she had a life with this man. She just can't get over it, no matter. And it shows you, no matter how long time goes, grief is grief, and everyone deals with it differently. And they'll get over it when they get over it. So
I agree.
I think that was great to point that out.
Absolutely. So of course, now is when we have Angie on set for her new movie or show, and
the movie.
We have her. You see her in her uniform, the little cap on, in her fro,
looking like Rerun.
It's really cute. And Mike shows up, and she's like, "Fancy seeing you here." He's like, "You sent me your break schedule, your work schedule, when you're gonna take a lunch break. Like, what do you mean? Like
the location."
So I love it that he shows up though, and he invites her to his birthday party. He's like, it's not a birthday unless you're there. And she's like, okay, well.
I'll be Miguel. All I want is you, baby.
Right. And they try to get a little quick in. I'm not sure if it was the sex that did it or the hat that did it to her hair, but she goes back into the trailer, and she's like, the white stylist is styling another white woman's hair. Then she sits in the chair and she's like looking at it. The white stylist is looking at it. She's like, oh, this is like, you're fine, girl. You're good to go.
Did you? Bitch, you can say it. I said it.
Because I was thinking about it, but
she's sitting up there looking like Cindy Lou Who, and you think that is okay?
What's the audacity for me, for real? And so Angie is sitting there feeling low, and again, we've had so many points in this season so far that Angie has had to deal with colorism, and so seeing this took the cake, because the last thing you want to do is feel like an outcast because they hired you, but they don't have what's necessary to make you look your best or to keep you looking your best. And essentially the stylist leaves, and she's like, girl, if you want to do something with it, like, I trust you. You got that. And I could only imagine that made Angie feel worse, right? And so she leaves for the day. She goes home. She's twisting her hair, and we hear somebody singing "Happy Birthday to Me," and I'm like, "Happy birthday to me!" And it's right, because he's outside with his cake and a bottle of champagne, I think, and he's like, "I told you there's no birthday without you," and he's too short trying to jump and catch the fire escape. Sir, just let her buzz you up. Like, what are we doing right now? Like, you was not gonna make it. you just wasn't. But then, she's like, I'm not, my hair is not done, and I don't want you seeing me like this. And he's like, don't talk about my girlfriend like that. And she's like, girlfriend. So they have this cute little moment. I just love everything about this. What do we think is happening here, like in this scene? Like, what do we feel is building up?
I think, what's it called? What's it called? Daily. What you give yourself every day? Daily, affirmations. There we go. Thank you, Lord. Affirmations being, coming into fruition. She always says one day she's going to find her, a tall, dark man that's just going to love her and all of her. And we're seeing that happening for her. The thing that pisses me off is about the show. I mean, the movie, like how she's treated on that. It's so upsetting because we've heard the stories of our female celebrities, particularly how there's not a makeup artist who is well versed in black skin. There's not a hairstylist that's well versed in black hair. There's not a clothing stylist that's well versed in the voluptuousness of the curves of a black woman. And we see her go through that, and it's just a smack in the face because it's just like, girl, this is not the look. But Mike is the light at the end of the tunnel. He's that, that rainbow at the end of the storm for her. And I'm so happy for her because for someone who's always been looked at as too much, she's just enough for him. And I think that's the most beautiful thing to me.
I agree. And then, of course, we slide over to Ty. Brandon and his little, filthy animal, just taking what belongs to him.
You reminded me of Home Alone, you filthy animal.
And so, they meet up and they're at the and
arbitration.
Yeah, but we forgot. I guess we forgot this at some point in time in one of our other reviews because the lawyer definitely asked her, like, are you willing to, and I think we did actually talk about how if she was willing to lose all of it, just, instead of just giving up half.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're here, they're meeting up, they're giving the check over, and, Brandon tries to talk, and
that's like, a clause. That's a clause not to break.
Hello, for sure. Like, don't you even fucking try it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shows up at the damn house, like, and she opens the door, she slams the door, she opens the door, she said, "Nah, get in here, you're gonna hear this shit." And I feel like that's so real. But she slams the door like 3 times, and the next door neighbor was like, "Can you please not slam the goddamn door?" And so, but she basically tells him, like, how dare you? Like, you talk about me not moving on, you talk about me, like leaving you. But yes, I left, and you know why I left? I left because I needed to find myself. And so you should do the same, or you should have done the same. And he goes into
get a life,
like people constantly leaving him. And so here again, we're talking about abandonment. You know what I mean? This is very big in this episode, essentially, for real. And I don't think we realize how deep abandonment goes and how
it's traumatizing.
Very much so.
It's I'm definitely someone who suffers from separation anxiety. Like, don't you do that? Yeah. I'm that one that goes off and I'm lost. And I think that's something we don't talk about as far as how it relates to friendships. Granted, they were married, but they both were married in a sense of not being in love with each other, but because they were best friends who just wanted to spend their life together. But when Quinn left to find herself and create a life for herself, she abandoned Brandon, and he is left with a void that he can't fill. He tells her, it ain't like I've tried. I've had other people, and as you said, they've all left me. You know what I'm saying? I wish I could move on with my life, but I can't. And in that moment, you see her let that wall down and just they embrace each other. And I think when you have a friendship or any relationship that is as close as theirs appears to have been back in the day, that's always going to happen. And I mean, I've had those moments with some of my friends, even just last year, I told you about it, that I went through. And it's just like, sometimes you don't know how that distance affects you. You know what I'm saying? Well, yeah, every all parties involved in it,
Mhm.
you know. So
Yeah, I think that the abandonment, and like you said, we don't think that we can experience that in friendships because we're so accustomed to. For me, my first abandonment that came from was, the unfortunate distance between me and my dad from living in two separate states, and
mm,
that translated into my romantic relationships. And when I did become friends with people, um or when I became romantically involved, the tiniest like space in between would cause me to go into like a, oh my god, he left me, or oh my god, he ghosted me space. And as I got older and I went to therapy, I understood it had nothing to do with me and more so to do about them. And I think that's the hardest lesson to learn, is that it's not about you, it's about them. And so when you talk about friendships and being in space where you're really hurt because this person was kind of like your core, your like the
mhm.
ride or die, your right hand to your left hand. It's hard, and so I get it. And so we see them share a moment, they share a hug, and we'll have to rewind and say that Ty had an amazing night um after
Pride.
Five, because she ends up sleeping with, her name again, Zoe.
Zoe and Kim and Katie and Becca.
And
I'm just
yeah,
guessing. I'm just
just messing,
guessing on the
making
other
up
girl's
names,
name.
but she has a orgy
Orgy.
essentially. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "Is there anybody else? Are you guys good with needles?" Da, 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 da. And this is when Brandon shows up, and so like I said, her and Brandon share a moment. They hug, and Brandon ends up giving her the one to give her the shot, which I think, what for me, I love that they show that some things are not always broken beyond repair, because
Absolutely not.
they were able to mend their friendship and have that moment. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have Quinn, who wakes up, lays in bed, wakes up, falls asleep, wakes up, eats, wakes up, looks in her closet, wakes up, does nothing. She goes to the store essentially, right, to open up
Mm-hmm.
for one of her top customers, and then she's like, "Do you just ever shut the fuck up?
Shut the fuck up.
Like, do you ever?" And that's when like your depression has hit. And so we see her out at the park, sitting there, like, shirt, Ugg boots, sweats. I'm not even sure what weather season we in, right? Because it's a very interesting mix, but nonetheless, um, she's sitting
It is.
there, and she looks torn. She looks beat down. She looks like, and she finally texts the girls and lets them know, like, "Hey, I'm not okay." And I felt this with all my fibers, because as somebody who suffers from depression, it's like you try so hard to hold on to what little strength you
Mhm.
have, what little what is it called, control you have, you
Exactly.
know what I mean? Because you're like, I can't let shit fall by the wayside. I can't do this. I need this to, like, and then finally you hit that space where you're like, listen, I'm not gonna make it if I don't tell people that I need this help, And you and I have had this conversation many times, because you're one of those people that I reach out to. And so for me, I could be on the other end, like I'm crying, literally, like just trying to figure,
Mm,
because it's so hard, because you're really like, no, like you're like, I got it, but like I'm on the phone with Jamal because you don't got it. You know what I mean? It's an
it's
internal
it's
battle.
you took the words out of my mouth. It really is, because it's just like, you want to have it together, but you want help, but you don't want to admit you want help, but you need
Right.
help, but you want to still hold it together. And I'm that same way, to the point I never say anything. It really is my closest friends checking in and be
Mm-hmm.
like, I know you, like, don't tell me you all right. I know you're
Right.
not all right. Like, what's
Yeah.
up? And that's just go to show, like, knowing your community and knowing yourself and knowing your foundation and what to do. Like, Quinn knows that these are her girls, but she knows that she's been very aloof and evasive from them,
Right.
and she just couldn't take it anymore. And I
Yeah.
commend her on that, because I think that goes to show strength. That when you're able to admit the problem and admit that you need the help and you need someone, you want someone, that's strength. I haven't been able to do that. I'm always the one that has to get sat down and like, okay, so what's going on? What's on your mind? How are we feeling?
It's a lot harder. I think I'm so accustomed to being for everybody else that I forget how to be for myself. So that's the thing. So, all the girls but Camille shows up to Quinn's house. They talk, they laugh, they're like, listen, we got you, girl. What do you need? And they're like, looks like we need another trip to where they go again?
Puerto Rico.
Right, Puerto Rico. And so, they're like, okay, cool. And then everybody is asking, like, where's Camille?
Where's Camille?
And we see her wake up in a bed that's not hers and Ian's, because we see Jameson next to her, and we like, this raggedy psych now.
You raggedy bitch. Like, nah. But because that's where it comes to, because after that trip to Camille's mom's house, she decides to go ahead and go half on a project with Ian. I mean, Jameson, you know what I'm saying? And she wake up, they go over there, they just chilling at first, and then she wake up, oh shit. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, they done went half on a baby. Yeah. And she comes home to Ian. And the one thing I did not like about this, because of the severity of the situation, don't use your friends' moments as a escape, as a cover, as an excuse for you in your fuck ups.
Yeah, but I agree. But what would have been the other alternative?
The truth.
Okay, so I'm gonna just
because let me not say that, because we don't know what the truth is just yet.
Yeah, we don't. So, but we do know that the truth is she wasn't at
Quinn's. And that's another thing too. Like, if you gonna fuck up like that, at least try to do like a little lap there. Like, hey girl, sorry I'm late, but I'm here. All right, y'all, everything's handled. This is what we gonna do. Right. All right, see y'all later. Just to get your, just to cover your bases. Because I'm telling you, being that friend that always was used as a scapegoat, it's hard as hell to come up with lies on.
Was I not a good liar? I was never used as a
Let me tell you something. I had a friend who shall remain nameless. We joke about it now, and when this comes out, she gonna fall the hell out when she hears me say this. But she had a situation, and she'd be like, "Oh, I was with him. I was with him there." And when my phone would ring, and I'm like, "Huh?" And then he'd be like, "Oh yeah, she said she was." I'm like, "Oh yeah." Listen, don't be that friend.
Because he ain't that.
No, we with it now. We with it. We got over it, because it was like, now let's save this in case. You know what I'm saying? But now she's happily married, so she don't have those days no more. But baby, I'm trying to tell you, improvisation is not a game.
I'm on my way to being happily married, because I am just
claim it
that love is on its way to find me. All right,
claim it. I'm just trying to find somebody that look like the IT guy from my job.
We're not doing that. Goodbye. All right, y'all. You know what to do. Drop your comments, your thoughts. What you feeling? What you not feeling? Do you like the season so far? Do you like these 2 episodes that have been dropped? And I think this is where we actually start to get more into the show. And so I'm excited to see what is to come. So until next time, stay safe out here in these streets.
Make good choices.